Hello and thanks for joining me for your in-depth weekly horoscope for week commencing the 10th of January. This is for the Sun or the Ascendant. As ever, I'll give you a broad overview before, please stay with me, I will dive deep and go into each individual zodiac sign to give you in forensic detail what you can expect for the next 7 days. Now, if you are new to my channel, I would be honoured if you would subscribe. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. Now, this week begins with an event which actually happened late last week, still very much to the fore, and that's a quarter moon between the Sun and the Moon. The Moon on Sunday was in the sign of Aries, the Sun in the sign of Capricorn. Aries is the first house, the first zodiac sign. It's very much to do with action and energy and impulse. And the moon in this location can be quite restless, whereas the Sun in the sign of Capricorn is much more about how the established order works. So if we want to try something a bit more individual this week, we have to be mindful of how it will be received. Now, also this week, from Monday through to Wednesday, the Sun is forging a beautiful link with Neptune. If you are someone who has a strong compassion for those who are less fortunate, this is really going to emphasize that part of your nature. This could see you making a donation to a good cause, or perhaps doing something just in a practical way. You know, keeping an eye on an elderly neighbour, or perhaps if someone's got COVID, going and doing a bit of shopping for them, putting it on their doorstep just to give them some assistance. The Sun in the sign of Capricorn can be about status and more material gains. Neptune in Pisces is much more spiritual. So it's like trying to find a union between the two when they're in this sextile. But in the second half of this week, the Sun comes in to a conjunction with Pluto. Now, by Sunday, this becomes absolutely exact. This is very much to do with transformations. Pluto is the planet of change, but it can also be the planet of endings. So if there's something in our situation that needs to make way, then this particular influence is going to call out to us. Now, it could be an old lifestyle approach. It may be a job that we're not enjoying very much. Perhaps it is that relationship which has seen better days and been bumping along the bottom. But that transformation that can go on between the Sun and Pluto can also be within ourselves. So we can change and our relationship to situations alter quite deeply. Now, of course, on Friday, Mercury finally goes into its retrograde. It's actually been in its pre-shadow period since the last 3 days of last year. So if something has been meandering along and not quite gaining the traction that you've been hoping for, this could explain it. But also this week, Mars is in an aggravating angle with Neptune. So Mars is very much about passion, action, desire. Neptune can dissolve, so sometimes our motives can be a bit unclear when these two are not communicating clearly. So with Mercury also in a retrograde in the sector of friendships and group associations and how we connect to others, I think it's going to be important if something or somebody seems a little bit different or not quite clear in where they're coming from, not to jump to a conclusion, because the potential for confusion is definitely there later in this week. But if we can stay clear-minded and clear in our actions, some kind of change can happen in our situations which actually can be very positive, even if it doesn't feel like it at the time, which often can be the case with Pluto. Now, before I go on to tell you about each of the 12 zodiac signs, year 2022 is with us. If you want to order your forecast and get my special package of your character analysis as well, from the time of the order, I will give you 12 full months plus 30% off. But all this is based on your unique birth data, not just your sun sign, and can give you searing insights of what you can expect in the months ahead, and also discover what makes you tick at a much deeper level. Please see the link beneath this video. Hello Aries, and welcome to your in-depth forecast for week commencing the 10th of January. Your ruling planet Mars is in a squabble this week with Neptune, the planet of dreams. But Neptune's in a very psychological location and Mars is in a very escapist location. So one thing we can almost certainly say is your imagination can be aroused by this combination. But if you were hoping to travel or you're wanting to be more independent, the present COVID regulations and restrictions, wherever you're living, could seem quite impactful upon you. But perhaps what Mars is really saying to you is that if you're feeling bored or in some way closed in terms of your worldly role, whether it's to do with work or just where you live, the politics within your community or your family, I think Mars is saying to you, look, you need to liberate yourself from something that's not quite working. So if you feel drained, if your energy's low, it may be because a big alteration is required. Now with Mercury, of course, going retrograde on Wednesday, this is an opportunity to rethink, but particularly about your future plans. Because Saturn has been in this location full time since the end of 2020, actually had a bit of a brief period from March the 22nd to August the 2nd in year 2020, when you may also have been rethinking your future plans. I think whatever you're hoping to do in the long term could be what's under the immediate spotlight. So even though there may be a job or a role you have that's okay for now, if you don't see it as being something that's really progressive, it doesn't serve your purposes for that longer term, I think that's what you could be rethinking. But a friend or somebody you haven't spoken to for a while can actually be very helpful. Mercury retrograde has, of course, got rightly a reputation for being niggly around arrangements, details, bookings, flights, travel, all that stuff. But also Mercury retrograde is a time to rethink. And it may be that somebody around you can provide some perspective that actually could be very helpful to you. But with the quarter moon in your sign at the end of last week, informing this week's energy, if you're not feeling very fulfilled in how you earn a living or how you connect with the world at large, that's the area that the conjunction between the Sun and Pluto is asking you to really look at with quite a lot of seriousness.